The 94 cases have been showcased, I guess, yesterday by the US media. And, my opinion is that we really need to be very careful with hyping these headlines and pointing the accusing fingers towards vaping products. My understanding is that there's a huge variety of respiratory ailments and conditions. And this is per se very suspicious because how can a single trigger, in this case electronic cigarette, cause such a sorted list of respiratory conditions such as lipoid pneumonia, eosinophilic pneumonia, diffuse alveolar hemorrhage, organizing pneumonia, hypersensitivity pneumonitis, asthma, COPD, lung cancer. Oh, come on.
Right.
This is that's not credible. I mean, a single trigger factor cannot cause such a diverse variety of etiologically diverse respiratory conditions. So, and going back to the 94 cases, it is important that causality is proven and there is some level of biological plausibility. So I really think some investigation is needed there. I mean, after 10 years of vaping, now all at once in Wisconsin, there have been something like 20 cases in the last month. I mean, these microepidemics, if it is true and is due to vaping, it may be related to some street stuff or some do-it-yourself
homebrew, like a DIY, a do-it-yourself.
Yeah, DIY kind of things that kids are involved into, and it's nothing to do with commercial products that have been tested and retested according to the internal industry standards.
Specifically, the CDC has said they do not know what product was used, what brand was used, or what substance was used. But yet it's national news and it's connected to vaping.
I think this is a responsibility that stands with the journalists. We have a big problem with journalist ethics and critical thinking of journalists these days, and that needs to be addressed pretty quickly. Of course, they need to sell the news, they need to sell newspapers, they need to be on air with a very catchy headlines. So I'm not surprised that people try to, to emphasize on the negative aspects of any products that are available to the public.
But FDA and CDC are certainly pushing this. If it wasn't for the fact that the federal agencies were waving the flag, I don't think the national news media would be going down this route. This is driven by the agencies.
I cannot really comment on that because I haven't been reading directly from CDC or the other authorities. But my understanding is that some investigation is underway, and we just need to be patient and just wait for the outcome of these investigations.
So to go back here a little bit over the last 2 years, your research has found famously that there has not been lung damage as a result of vaping. Is that not correct?
Well, we've been investigating hundreds of people, and we've never been reporting such severe respiratory condition in any of the participants or subjects or patients that have been investigated in our research.
So obviously lung damage really is the Achilles heel of vaping. It is the single most important thing that you need to keep safe is the lungs. I mean, that's what this is all about. Does this feel like kind of like, an attack basically at the heart of vaping?
Well, if you believe in conspirational theories, yes. I am a more pragmatic kind of person. To me, what I see is what I believe, and so far I've seen patients who quit smoking by switching to vaping, and their respiratory conditions has improved, as a matter of fact. And I think these cases that have been reported by the media needs to be investigated. I really believe that there's something that has to do with some street stuff or illegal products, something that it's not really been into the circulation in the European market or anywhere else. I think we are still in the dark, but I'm very suspicious of all these scaremongering news, because so far, every single time there's been a report of some very nasty disease, we were able to debunk it without any problems.
You've mentioned that medical scientific credibility might have reached an historic minimum. Could you explain that?
Well, I think it's self-explanatory. If we insist in trying to identify and seeing things that do not exist in the face of human intelligence, I mean, what is going to happen is that the lay public is not going to believe what the health authorities are going to say. It's very simple, and I know many people that they are very skeptical about what the news media and what the officials are saying about not just vaping products, but the vaccine story, and there are many other issues that have been contentious, and the lay public is not stupid. They have their own opinions, and they see for themselves if there's something very strange happening. In the case of vaping, I really think we are exaggerating in trying to focus too much on risks that they're not even there, and forget that there are a lot of benefits associated with the regular exclusive use of these new technologies.
Now, I don't want to suppose that I can put you or even myself or our viewers into the minds of a teenager, but let's give it a shot. There's a part of me that wonders how much of a psychological thing could be going on here, because certainly if you're a teen that might be longing for a little bit of attention, certainly blaming something on vaping at this point can not only generate you national news coverage, but a whole whack of kind of attention and self-worth driven by your peers. And then I'm certain that there's going to be several multi-million-dollar lawsuits launched as a result of these so-called lung illnesses. So, I mean, is there not other motives here that should be thought of, or at least investigated?
This is a very US-centric vision that what you're saying will not happen in Europe or in Italy, and in fact is not happening.
Right. So this lung illness scare is not something that you believe could turn into an epidemic across the pond.
Of course not. I mean, if there is an epidemic caused by a factor, a trigger, ideological factor, it should be happening everywhere. The youth epidemic of vaping is a very US-centric phenomenon, and yet again needs to be defined what we mean by epidemic in actual fact. Has not been mirrored by any means in other European countries, for example. And the same, I guess, applies to this psychological aspect that you were underscoring in relation to young US kids willing to attract attention through the media or through social media. This is something that is clearly not seen in our culture. So that's one of the reasons why this is not going to happen.
You made a point that I think that we need to really hammer home here, and that was that there is a wide variety of illnesses that are happening here, which points to, well, which leads to a little bit of we should be circumspect.
Yeah, definitely. It points to doubts. I very much doubt on a single trigger causing such a wide variety of respiratory condition, as well as I very much doubt on a single drug that cures all the diseases.
Right. So then lastly, what's your message, if you had one, for FDA, CDC, and the media?
Well, if it was, let's say, an epidemic, a viral epidemic or some unknown origin, I would have thought CDC would have been more cautious in spreading the news to the media until investigation was underway or even completed. The same attitude should be kept in relation to vaping products and these new technologies. Why using a double standard? I quite don't understand.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Pelosa, for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you to you.